Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Talk. We are your hosts, Southborough Youth and Family Services. My name is Sarah Castle. I am the Director of Southborough Youth and Family Services. And with me this morning, we have Megan Island, who's our Assistant Director. Good morning, Megan.
Morning.
We have Shannon Knyman, who's our Program Coordinator. Good morning, Shannon.
Ready?
And we're so excited to be cooking this morning with a good friend that we haven't seen for a while, Sabine St. Pierre from Sabine's Cuisines. Good morning, Sabine.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. In the spirit of the upcoming holiday this Thursday, Thanksgiving, we thought we needed to do some cooking. And we thought of Sabine as she's known to our community and such an excellent chef. And she's going to walk us through a recipe this morning, a delicious one that goes very well with your coffee. I'm remiss, we have to toast. Does everybody have a coffee mug nearby?
I'm ready.
This is the one I'm going to use for my, oh, you've got multiple.
Yes, one to cook, one to drink.
That's right. I wish I had a coffee to go with what we're going to bake today because it would go so perfectly. But
it would.
The upcoming holidays can be a stressful time with a lot of pressure to make lots of food and have company over. And this year is probably going to look different for people in that, you may be cooking for a smaller group and have smaller recipes that you're following. I went to look for a turkey yesterday. I was like, all of these are like way too big. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we've decided not to do turkey this year, but at any rate, it's a stressful time, and often Thanksgiving can cause some stress around cooking. And so we thought it would be nice to take a minute to enjoy cooking, to enjoy the experience of cooking, and to use all of our different senses to experience food as a way of kind of grounding us and appreciating some of what comes along with the Thanksgiving holiday. So let's see, what else am I missing? Are we good? Sabine, do you want to start by telling us about yourself and your background and when you started Sabine's Cuisines?
Sure.
I'm going to get myself situated over here.
Yeah, go ahead and get situated, get all your stuff ready. So I used to teach actually in Neary in Southborough, but I've always had this passion for cooking. And it was one of those things, it was like my therapy at the end of the day. I would come home from teaching all day and I would just chop stuff up and make, I followed some recipes here and there, but the more I did it, I kind of just didn't have to think twice about it. Just chopping away, letting my mind go. And it started to become more than just a hobby. So I ended up leaving teaching and started Sabine's Cuisine 13 years ago.
Wow.
Crazy. Someone asked me the other day, how long has it been? I'm like, 13 years I started it. So I did start it while I was still teaching at Neary, and then eventually was able to just kind of go full time with Sabine's Cuisine. And mostly what I do is cook for people. I go to their homes. Pre-pandemic, I would go into their homes and I would cook their meals for them, and they'd have healthy cuisine for the week. If people have allergies, that's my specialty. Mm. So like, for example, what we're going to do today is, I like to call it healthify. We're going to healthify in Sabine's Cuisine a mug cake to make it healthier. So that's what I do for a lot of people, is try to teach them ways to take something that may not have been healthy, make it healthy, or if it has an allergen in it, how to make a good swap for that.
Great.
So that's pretty much what I've been doing for 13 years.
That's great. I love that verb, healthify.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
I like to create words.
Yeah. Cool. We're cool with that.
Oh, that works.
So
what do we need for our recipe today? What are we going to be making?
So we're going to be making maple cinnamon mug cake. So when if I'm doing a new recipe, so when I go to someone's house or, if I'm cooking at home and it's something I haven't made before, I always like to print my recipe. So I usually always have that on hand. A lot of people like to maybe try to use their phone to check the recipe as they're doing it, but that's a lot of like picking up, putting it down. Plus, your phone might be dirty, so you don't really want to touch it a lot while you're cooking. So always just have a printed copy of your recipe. It makes it go much quicker. This recipe it calls for almond flour. Not everybody has almond flour and it's not cheap. But there's a lot of paleo baking mixes out there now. Bob's Red Mill is a good brand. I actually have 2 Bob's Red Mill. I have an all-purpose flour that's gluten-free, paleo pancake waffle mix. Most of these, their base is almond flour or almond meal, they call it. We're gonna need some oats. I just found these the other day. The Kodiak Cakes brand is come out with a lot of, you probably have seen them in the supermarket with muffin mixes and stuff like that. They bulk everything up with some extra protein. I have a picky eater, like many of us do, and he won't eat eggs or a lot of meat. So to get protein, I try to do stuff like that. So I have those oats, but any oats will do. If there's a gluten allergy, just make sure. A lot of times oats are naturally gluten-free, but they're processed in a facility with wheat a lot of times. So if there's a gluten allergy, just make sure you check that. We've got applesauce, some cut up apples, cinnamon. If you don't like cinnamon, you can leave it out. Maple syrup or honey. Honey would work for this too. I like to use natural sweeteners rather than like a spoonful of sugar. We've got a little bit of olive oil, good healthy fat in there. I try to stay away from canola oil. You could certainly use a coconut oil, would be good in this. And I cheated and I already cracked my egg into the bowl. So you all have your ingredients?
Yes.
You're all ready to go?
We're ready to go.
All right. We need a mug. So make sure you have your mug. And you can, if you wanted to, that mug is gigantic.
It is.
I love it. You could double this recipe and fit it in there, I think. So you just want to make sure you have something to grease the inside of the mug. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to do it over here over the sink so I don't get too much on the counter. You could always do butter in there. If you melted coconut oil to put in here, you could rub some of that in there. Just something to make sure that it doesn't stick. All right, go ahead and crack your egg into a bowl. I'm gonna just scramble it a little bit. That's the other reason I liked this recipe was because it had the egg in it. So again, it's just more protein. A lot of mug cakes don't necessarily have that egg in there, but I really liked that there's an egg in here. Next, we're gonna go in with our olive oil. We need about a tablespoon of olive oil. When I cook, I'm not a big measurer, but when I bake, I try to be really good about measuring. I have a good friend of mine, Tracy, who's a big baker, and she can't stand it when I don't measure. So this is for Tracy. All right.
Tracy, if you're watching.
This is for you. Next, we're going to go in with our applesauce. So we need 2 tablespoons of applesauce. That's all going right in the same bowl with our egg. My youngest loves this Granny Smith unsweetened applesauce. You want to try to get unsweetened because they always throw sugar in there. You don't need the extra sugar. Apples are naturally sweet. But trying to find the Granny Smith applesauce, not always easy.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever even heard of that.
I can find it at Price Chopper, and when I see it, I buy like 6 of them at a time. They come in these nice little cute containers, so it's perfect for snacks or school.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So, and then the last thing we're going to do, so we're doing all our liquid ingredients. We're going in with our maple syrup. This thing, my family, Tom, like drinks maple syrup. He loves it. Good natural sweetener. He uses it in his coffee. That's how he sweetens his coffee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. It's just, it's a natural way to sweeten things without the refined sugar.
Yeah.
All right, so we're doing a tablespoon of that. And like I said, you could use honey. If you're into stevia, you could put that in here too. Not a big fan. It just has an artificial taste to it for me, but that's my personal preference. All right, let's go ahead and mix that together a little bit. Then we're gonna go in with our dry ingredients. So I know, Sarah, you said that you found that you were using almond meal, right?
Almond flour.
Or
Does that
almond
work?
flour. Yep, that's perfect. Anyone else find anything different that they're gonna try?
I'm just gonna use regular old flour.
Me too.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. So I tried this the other day with a regular baking mix,
Yeah.
and it like puffed up out of the cup.
Oh,
It still tasted good. I found it was a little drier, so I really liked the ones. I tried the Bob's Red Mill Paleo Pancake Mix. That came out really good. So I'm going to try the gluten-free flour. So we'll see how yours turns out with the regular flour. I love
It's kind of
experimenting.
like a science experiment along with a cooking experience.
Right.
well,
Yeah.
baking is science based.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It really
that's
is
part
science.
of the whole measuring thing is why it becomes so important and for cooking not so much. So
Right.
Sabine, do we need a separate bowl for our dry ingredients, or are we putting it right into the?
We're going to go all into this bowl. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
All
love
in.
to do this, so I like to condense it all into one if I can.
That's good. Less dishes.
So we need a third of a cup of our whatever flour that you're using. Just make sure it's level. I should have a proper leveling tool. Could use something that's flat like this just to level it off, but I feel like I did a pretty good job just kind of shaking it in there. So 1/3 of a cup of that is going in there. Then we're going to take our oats, and we need 2 tablespoons of our oats. And it calls for rolled oats. You could certainly use quick cooking oats. They're a little finer, so they don't give as much texture. So if you think texture is going to be an issue for someone, it would be good to use the quick cooking oats, but whatever oats you have on hand. I would say steel cut oats would not work for this. Those require much longer cooking.
Okay.
I
How much are we putting in again of the oats?
2 tablespoons.
2 tablespoons. Thank you.
2 tablespoons.
1.
Awesome. Cinnamon, if you're going in with your cinnamon, we need a 1/2 teaspoon. This is one of those where if Tracy was maybe not watching me, I would just sprinkle some cinnamon in there. But because we're baking, I'm going to go ahead and measure my 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. If you have some that has an aversion to cinnamon, you certainly don't have to put it in there. You could also add, if you had like a nutmeg or even ginger, allspice, you could put a little zhuzh of that in there if you like that. It's just that fall smell feeling.
Would cloves work too?
Yeah, I would put a little, feel like cloves, a little goes a long way. So
Yes.
I would maybe just do like a little dash.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's give that a stir. And this is nice because there can be different variations. I always like to have a variety of things. So you can use some different flours. You can use different spices. We're gonna go ahead and we pre-chopped our apples, some of us. We're gonna.
Some of us did.
Some of us.
I did it real quick right before we started.
Good. Well, and that's the thing with prep. I mean, the more you can do ahead of time when you go to assemble everything, it just makes life so much easier and it goes so much quicker. And I think, Sarah, you kept the peel on your apple, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't mind that texture, there's a lot of fiber in that peel. So a lot of good nutrition. I peeled mine. So I'm going to dump that in there. And this would be something fun to do with your kids because what I did the other day when I was trialing all these different flours is I just had one mug and one little bowl set at each station. And, they can, as long as they have their own measuring tools, just kind of go through and measure, and super simple recipe to get that family involved. Especially if it's not going to be such a busy Thanksgiving this year. Like, this would be something nice to do when you wake up in the morning. I think it's going to be pouring on Thursday. This would be perfect. Sit by the fire, eat your mug cake, and drink your coffee. All right, so we're all in. If you wanted to, you could certainly, I love to add some dried cranberries, pecans. I'm going to throw some pecans into mine. So if you had some extras that you wanted to add in, this would be a good time to do it. Walnuts, all sorts of good stuff. So we're going to stir that in, and we're going into the mug. We're getting to the finale.
I'm going for it.
Everyone with me?
Yes.
Am I going too fast for you? We're good? Awesome. And so, as I did find out the other day when I like I said, when I did that one and it puffed over the mug, my mugs are really small. I need to get Sarah's mug.
Yeah, you need to get one that's the size of your head.
Yes.
If this puffs up out of this mug, that'll be a surprise. I'm gonna have to eat it for lunch also.
I'm gonna shift over here a little bit. Boop. Microwave is down here. We're gonna open it up. So we're going into the microwave. Just set it right in as it is.
Okay.
Mine's down here. You see it? All right. So it's going in. I would leave it on hot, regular power, and we're gonna do 2.5 minutes. If you find that your microwave is super powerful, I would maybe just go for 2 minutes, but we're gonna go for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And I like to let it, once it's done, I like to let it sit for another minute or two to just let that heat kind of redistribute through the whole mug. So when you hear it go off, don't go over right away to open it. It's sort of like when you pull a steak off a grill. Everyone wants to cut right into the steak or your turkey for Thanksgiving. When you pull that turkey out of the oven, you want to let that baby rest for like 30 minutes. Let all the juices redistribute. So we're going to let this kind of sit once it's done. And then we'll let it cool a bit before we try it. We don't want to burn our tongues. So this is our mud cake.
Sabine, I wonder.
While we're waiting for that to finish.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Have some tips for us, Sabine, about.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. What were you saying, Sarah?
Oh, you go ahead.
So I was going to ask you, Sabine, do you have some tips for us of, the top of that cooking can be really stressful for some people. Do you have some tips on what can make the kitchen a little less stressful?
Sure. So there's a lot of services out there, like Sabine's Cuisine, personal chefs, or a lot of ordering services. Some will have the meals fully prepared for you. Some have it all set. You can shop for it online, have the food all set and ready to go. And then you still have to get the fun. See, the fun part for me is all that prep work, right? People dread the prep work. So if you can have somebody else help take the prep work off your hands, certainly do something like that. But I think cooking can really end up being therapeutic for a lot of people if they can figure out how to take the stress out of it. Pre-planning is a big thing. So whether it's for a holiday like Thanksgiving or your weekly meals, even if you plan a couple nights in advance, I feel like people are thinking they have to plan a whole week's worth of dinners all at once and shop for it and be ready for it at a time. I like to always, like I said, print my recipes or print a list of what you want. Sit down with your mug cake and your coffee and make your shopping list. And that could be done the day before you're actually going to go shopping. You know, I think a lot of people think this all has to be done at once. They shop, then they come home, they empty everything, and then they have to prep it. So if you can break it up into different parts on different days, that takes the stress out of it. And then once you do have everything home, it's sort of that pre-prep. Like if I'm going to be baking something, I try to pre-measure all my dry ingredients, even if I'm not baking it for another day or two. So if you're going to make brownies for Thanksgiving or a pie and you need to measure out dry ingredients for a crust or a batter, pre-measure it and just leave it in the bowl on the counter covered in saran wrap till you get to it. So and pre-chopped veggies. A lot of sides for Thanksgiving can be pre-baked and then just heat it up on Thanksgiving. So whatever you can do ahead of time, that I think is really key, but it requires planning.
Right.
Right.
All right, did everyone's microwaves go off?
Yeah. Can't
I
wait.
feel like they've sat in there for about a minute or so. Are we ready to unveil? Let's see if anyone's overflowed their cup. All right, I'm going in. How does it look? You see mine?
I wish everybody could smell this.
I know.
Yeah, it smells amazing.
It smells like we just baked apple pie.
It does. I know you were
I was thinking-
healthifying this, but I'm desperate for a scoop of vanilla ice cream right now.
But see, you healthified it enough. You can get away with throwing a little spoonful or like a little whipped cream. Can't hurt.
Yeah, maybe my verb is to de-healthify or to, what would be the opposite? To
Unhealthified.
unhealthify.
But
I don't know, but it looks
How did
amazing.
everyone else's turn out? I'm curious how the ones with the flour turned out.
yeah, it looks good. It pulled away from the sides, which
Yeah,
didn't
mine too.
happen to the mug cake.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
Awesome.
yeah, it looks good.
All right, I'm gonna grab a spoon because we have to taste it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to do the obligatory cooking show taste for our audience.
Yes, there always has to be a taste and an explaining of the flavors. The other thing I liked about this recipe was that it had the real apples in it, not just the applesauce, because I do like the crunch of that.
Yeah, definitely. Oh,
All right, I'm going in.
Shannon, you need to like drizzle something on that plate or.
I know,
it looks
that came out
beautiful.
really well.
I don't know.
Oh, look at you.
Ketchup in the fridge, soy sauce, I don't know.
Wow.
Soy sauce.
Caramel would be really good on that. That's a good call. How'd it come out?
It's delicious. Really, really good. And you're totally right. We didn't add any sugar to this, and you don't need it. If we did, it would be kind of awful because it's so sweet already.
Right. And if you found that it wasn't sweet enough, the next time you could always add a little extra maple syrup. When you flip it out on the plate, you can always drizzle a little extra maple syrup or honey on it.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
soy sauce.
You should have maple syrup right next to you, Shannon. You don't need soy sauce at all.
Right?
That's great.
Mine's pretty hot.
It is pretty hot.
Yeah, it is really hot.
Yeah.
Maybe that's good though, because it keeps me from just eating it really
The whole thing.
fast, which is
True. It makes you slow down.
Yeah.
I'm tempted
Yeah.
to try another one. So, because now I always like get on these themes. So I feel like I'm going to have a mug cake thing for the next few weeks. But I have a lot of bananas I need to use, and I love banana bread.
Mm.
So I might have to try and see if I can revamp this a little bit to use the bananas.
That sounds great.
Right?
So I wish viewers at home, I don't know. I don't think we shared the recipe ahead of time. We're going to share this recipe with you all in our comments. But one of the things, that we mentioned about cooking and how this can be sort of a cathartic and therapeutic experience, we're tasting things, smelling things. And Lisa, who's our graduate clinician, who's been on the show with us before, when she speaks about cooking, I'm not even experiencing the scents and smells myself, but it's transports me to another place that I haven't even been. It's her memory, but she just talks about how just taking a second to breathe in the smells of what you've just made, or even your ingredients as you're going along.
Mhm.
The cinnamon, the apples that you've cut up, the syrup, all of those things can be really helpful for combating stress. We don't really often take a minute, the saying, take a minute and smell the roses. Well, take a minute
Yeah.
and smell your cinnamon without sneezing.
Yeah.
If it's your mug cake, you can sneeze all you want, but
Yeah.
but anyway,
I
this
think
is
that's
a really nice way to kind of reintegrate your physical senses and a different way of dealing with stress.
right.
We need all we can get right now in our toolbox.
We do. And again, I know cooking can be stressful for people. So it's one of those things where, if you were going to do something like this for the first time, you probably don't want to do it on a morning where you're trying to get out the door with the kids. I'd wait for like Thanksgiving morning or a weekend morning where you can make it a family thing and get the kids involved and put the toppings out and they can add what they want into their mug. And, it's a very easy recipe for them to do and get them involved. I'm curious, I haven't tried this, but if you could make it the night before, but not cook it and just leave it in your fridge. And then in the morning, pop it in the microwave and see how it turns out. I'd imagine that the texture it probably would still be good like that. So it could be a make ahead the night before, just prep it and then just have to stick it in the microwave. Because, then the kids could eat this in the car.
Right.
Yeah.
Sabine, for somebody who cooks as much as you do, what is your favorite thing to cook? Or what is your favorite holiday to cook for?
Always a tough question. I think what I enjoy the most is when clients give me the challenge of a recipe that they love, but suddenly can't have it either because it's, too high in fat and they just found out they've got, a heart issue, or they found out they've got a gluten allergy and they can't have their favorite pasta dish anymore. So to me, I love experimenting with trying to figure out how to make it so that it still tastes delicious, but is something they actually can still eat. And it still gives them that sense of, because sometimes it might be something they ate as a child that they love, or it's that comfort food that they love and they're devastated they can't eat it anymore. So to be able to still have that sensation when they're eating it, even though it's been healthified or Sabine's cuisined and cleaned up. So I think that's the thing I enjoy most about the cooking piece of it. As far as the favorite holiday, I probably would have to say 4th of July.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
I think we always kind of think about Thanksgiving and the Christmas, winter holidays, but we do a lot of potluck in my family. I'm one of 5 girls, so there's a lot of us. So I actually don't end up doing too much cooking on the major holidays, but 4th of July, we live on a lake, so we entertain and we like to have a cookout. And I usually will cook something in the afternoon, maybe try some sort of new rib dish. And I love experimenting. Most people, you probably don't want to experiment with recipes for a holiday, but I love trying something new on people on a holiday.
That's great.
And then we'll usually just do burgers and hot dogs at night. So we kind of make it an all day thing, but I just love being outdoors. I love grilling. So that probably is my favorite holiday.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. This was such a nice change of pace.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we hope that our viewers enjoyed it too, and that they'll try this recipe. And there's so many great mug recipes, and I love the idea of healthifying things. So that's the new word today.
Word of the day.
Next week, we are very excited to welcome Representative Carolyn Dykema on the show. Shannon, do you want to talk just quickly about what Carolyn plans to talk with us about next week?
Sure. She and I actually had a nice long conversation yesterday in preparation for next week. And talking about housing in Massachusetts. And, before the pandemic, housing is an issue in Massachusetts because there's not enough affordable housing. There's not enough housing in general, but there's not, particularly now it's that much tougher. So she's going to be coming in to talk to us a little bit about that and programs that are available to folks. And we'll talk about how it's, even if it's something that's not affecting you, how it's a community issue.
We got cut off a little bit, but I think we got the gist of it, that she's going to come in and talk to us about housing and programs that are available for people, among many other important topics that are going on right now. So we're very excited for that. So please join us next time. Sabine, thank you again for coming on today.
Thank you.
And happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We're so thankful for this wonderful community and the opportunity to be here with you. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.